Father Tom is an experienced organizational development consultant for church and educational organizations. He's skilled in whole system management, leadership development, and 360 feedback with a doctoral degree in organization learning and development from the University of St. Thomas in Minneapolis. Father Tom is currently the pastor of Corpus Christi in Council Bluffs. Please join me in welcoming Father Tom out of Furnace.
I'm trying to get rid of my little cold, so you have to bear with me the voice, but I'm fine. If you're fine with me, so. Thank you, Eileen, for the kind introduction. Although I have some degrees, if I'm just like other pastors, I'm getting my feet dirty and then getting into the daily challenges and very aware of it, and some of you are more aware because maybe around 20 years I have spent in also enjoying and helping and developing people, especially to be the best they can be, and also to help our parishes to be the best. What Bishop said is very important, especially in the context of we are all in the business of dealing with the people. We cannot do it alone. Probably in the earliest century, pastors could do it alone, tell people and then say, come on and do it. Nowadays, it doesn't quite work. We need to inspire, we need to motivate, we need to bring people along with us a team. And I used to tell this way or think this way, if you spend enough time in the front end, we don't need to regret spending time at the back end, especially with regard to hiring people and also bringing them along. As Bishop said, that's the most important day in the life of a staff and as a person, because today employment is everything. Their bread and butter, their dignity, and even their destiny to some extent. But from our faith point of view, we know there are precious angels coming into our place, and therefore we respect, we help, and we guide them. The second statement I used to make, sometimes my staff get puzzled. Staff get puzzled. I used to make this statement after a year, not immediately. And sometimes when new pastors come, people get scared. Am I going to be fired? I'm going to be gone? All this kind of fears comes. I said, I'm not here to fire anybody, but if anybody is fired, they are firing themselves. Afterwards, some of the staff came, I didn't quite understand that, I didn't quite understand, but after some time, yeah, I know, I get it, what I mean. I said, I'm not here, no pastors are here to fire anybody, but actually to help them. But sometimes it can happen that you have to take the decision. We'll help you to take the decision to move on, maybe to another place, as Bishop mentioned, not just termination, but transition. So I recently come across one of the beautiful ways of understanding this shift. It's called, we say that, we want to hold people accountable, but then that's not. We need a shift. It's called, we need to develop accountable people. A shift from holding people accountable to developing responsible, accountable people, so that people take responsibility for their own behavior, their own life, and also aligned with us as a team. So it's not the question, sometimes we have to, but it's not the question of holding people accountable or responsible. And coming from India, I know in America, people are more responsible. I can see that. People take that individual responsibility and pride in what they do. Other places are more collective society. They take pride in the group. Here, people take pride individually and personally. And therefore, it's actually very important that we develop their own capacity to be accountable, to be responsible, and indeed help them to be more responsible and develop that collective responsibility. And then we find that, whenever failure comes as a leader, we should assume the responsibility. Whenever success comes, give it to them. It's because of you I am succeeding. we are succeeding. That is a great Christian attitude, in fact. That's what Jesus did, I believe. He takes onto himself the challenges and failures and then give the credit to the other. And that way, I think that's a great way to understand and embrace the big challenge we are in, especially to grow people and develop people. You are all given a book. It's a beautiful book, which is actually called Leadership Challenge. Kind of scary title, but it is actually positive in the sense that this book has been researched by Jim Kushner and Barry Posner and Jim Kouzes, two wonderful researchers and professors, and they have actually developed the study and the material. This is highly research-based and practice-based. So they have actually researched thousands and thousands of leaders, followers and others, and found out that there are 5 things. There are 5 things that are actually crucial in their life that make them extraordinary and successful. They call it 5 practices, the 5 practices of exemplary leadership. It's basically to take action because it is practice-based. Model the way. Model the way. I'll go into each one step by step, but I just wanted to, or the summary or the outline of it. Model the way, which actually means being an example and being an authentic person, and then inspire a shared vision. So we're all working together for a shared vision, and you as a leader is a very important driving person for change and transformation and growth. So you play, and we all play that inspirational role, whether it's in a school or parish or in offices as such. So inspire a shared vision, the other practice. Second, and the third, challenge the process. Sometimes we are called upon to challenge the way things are going on, the status quo, and then to help to grow to a next level. And challenging is necessary. And enable. And we are all in the business of enabling others and helping others. So enabling others to act and to be productive. And then encourage the heart. Leadership is a business of the heart. So we need to engage the heart of the people from the heart, and also to engage the heart of the people. So these are the 5 things I found out of the 30 years of research as most important practices successful leaders engage in. And they're also deeply Bible-based, scripture-based. I'll come to that a little later, how you can even find scriptures and verses and thoughts behind each of these practices. Before I go into each of them, I would like to take a moment, maybe think about a time. All of us are leaders in a certain way, and leadership is everybody's business. Think about a time when you are at your personal best. Go back in history and go back in your life. As a leader, you're in your personal best. And how does that time look like? How does that experience look like? So take a moment and think about it. Think about the personal best you're in as a leader, and then nourish and then cherish that moment, and think about it and see what are the things you see in that experience. Maybe take a minute or two. I would ask you to share with your table, because you have 2 or 3 of you there, and in 2 or 3 minutes just share with your friends, your companions, with what is that one experience, what is that time, think of a time in your personal best, and then just share that with your table. Take 2 or 3 minutes together, and then we'll continue the learning process. You could share what was that personal best you heard. Not the same person, the other person could share about the next person. Adam, would you share about Father Bob?
Father Bob told a story of being trained in helping with chemical dependency for adolescents, and work that he did in the 80s, working with youth, dealing with that, and just what a positive experience that was, and how important that work was for him in those years.
Certainly, that is also challenging, right? So it's also one of the, you will find here, challenge the process, where the leaders are ready to take up the challenge. That's also your personal best. There your personal best comes out. I could even hear story from there. So sometimes it's the most challenging things you take up, and then you find amazingly, you also increase your strength, and you also come out in your personal best. The other day, Bishop told me that I told Bishop, Council Plus, you're giving me a big job, and he said, well, you're up to it. In the sense of developing confidence and also support, and all those comes in the process. Invitation is also sharing a vision. Unless you have a vision, you don't invite people. So that's also, you see, when that's coming out, that inspiration comes through a form of an invitation. I think that's what Jesus did. He invited Andrew. I think Bishop created Andrew dinner out of that vision of promoting vocations. So inviting other people is very key. I can say that I did one of the adventures called the Parish Summit. I called the leaders together and asked them, give me an idea which is compelling and also which is broad enough that all can participate. They came together and said, well, how can we create a vibrant parish, an inspirational one? Now, it's a continuous process. And then I sent that idea in my letter to everybody and invited people to come for a half-a-day process. And 170 people showed up on a Saturday morning, which normally doesn't happen. So the power of invitation and prayer. We hope in people's capacity, and then they will come. And I know Jason was there that day, and it was a beautiful way they could engage. And some of the committees are still working on their project, which they came out from them. Because I do believe in that way, just a simple inspiration, give it to people, and people will take on, because it's also in their heart. And so those are practices which is already on the ground. To be present, I think when you say model the way, it also means giving your presence as a leader. What people value, many a times, not what you said, or you don't remember many of your homilies either, but you are present at the critical time in their lives. And that indeed unforgettable for people, that also inspires us and challenges in our life. So going into I know all of you have shared, I'm sure there'll be wealth of insights and stories, and cherish that. What the leaders did, Jim Kosus and Posner, what they did, they asked this single question. They asked this single question to thousands of leaders and others. Tell us about a time, what I told you already. Tell us about a time you were at your personal best. And then you and describe that moment. And then from that, sharing of stories, of thousands of stories, they gleaned out these practices. They gleaned out from the stories these themes, and then came out as practices. And then that's why it's given to us for our reflection, for our understanding, and also for application in our own very lives. And later at a moment, I'll got something like an acronym for us to remember. And then you will find that it's easy for you to remember, and also reflect at time. Do I model? Do I inspire? Do I challenge? Do I enable? Do I encourage? So you can see the high and low in your own very lives, our own very lives. And therefore, that's the one question asked. Maybe in your journaling it will be helpful. Just write about that personal best. And then you can also see the moments and connect with the book and the themes coming in. Number one is actually model the way. Model the way is, in fact, to be an authentic person. Or listen to, we say, I'm sure all of you spend time in personal meditation or adoration or quiet time. And at that time, you're able to listen to your own very voice. Your own very voice. I'm reminded that to be in the light. Your own voice, personal voice, that may be the most powerful. The voice which God gives you. Like the famous story of Elijah. He ran up to the mountain, and the earthquake and other bigger things, he didn't hear the voice. But in the whisper, he heard the God's voice. So you're able to listen to that voice quiet time. It's not easy to quiet down, but at least find that time. Then you will find God is speaking to us. That's called the voice of the authentic self. Voice of your own authentic self. From that only we can model, we can be an example. And then our values become very clear. I visited one of the correction facilities in Wisconsin, and I was visiting and I saw this director, the director of the correctional facility, and an amazing way he deals with the under trials and others. And then I asked him, "What's your secret? What is your secret?" And he said, 3F. What is that? Be firm, be fair, be flexible. That's I think that's good for anybody, parents, for pastors, for principals, and any supervisors, any leaders, to be firm on principles and not compromising on the principles, but be fair in applying them to others, especially I think in employment. Mike Harty will tell us that if you apply a rule, Frank Harty will tell us, I'm sure, if you apply a rule to one person, you have to apply to others. If you give a fringe benefit to one person, we have to give it to other people too, because others are watching too. How fair you are. Even children, watch the parents. How fair you are. So being fair in applying the principles and rules, and then flexible, according to the level of the person. We have to, doesn't mean you're compromising principle, but you're applying according to the level of the person. One person may be able to understand, may be able to grasp quickly, other one may take some more time. So each person is so different, but each person is also come with a wealth of uniqueness and potential. So therefore, being flexible. I found that very useful. Sometimes I think, am I firm enough? Or am I loose enough? Am I flexible enough? Am I fair enough? All these questions comes, and it's very helpful. One day I was talking with Eileen, and it said employee decisions, and she said, well, if you're taking a right decision, be happy with it. It may not be an easy decision, but it's a right decision. I think that was in the moment, it was very helpful. Monday leadership is about the being in the moment. Being in the moment, how do you respond to? So if you feel that you're taking the right decision, but make it as easy as possible for the other person also. So model the way. Pope Francis was interviewed, and then in early times, and then he heard this from a priest advising him. He says, the joy of leadership that comes from our sincere, honest, authentic self. If you hope to attract others to church, you must live your vocation joyfully. I think I should pass on to Rose Parker, Father Rose Parker. No, the vocation not only for him, for everybody. If we live a vocation of being a minister, being a servant, being priest or principal or whatever capacity we are, I think live that joyfully and embrace it completely. We know that that will attract others. Like a perfume, it will draw people not only to us, but to the Lord, whom we stand for. So a leader is the one who has the capacity to stand for values, joyfully stand for, strongly stand for. I used to remember this quote, I don't know exactly from where, but it is a beautiful one. If you stand for something, people will be with you, people will be against you. If you don't stand for anything, neither people will be with you nor against you. What is best? So we are asked to take stand. I was pleased to see that Bishop was given the award recently as a humanitarian award for championing issues of climate, issues of refugees, issues of poverty, all those, because it's an affirmation to all of us that who are part of a leader, part of the sharing that joy of leadership, and then community and place recognizes it. So therefore, it is being joyful is important. All the time may not be. Pope Francis has another beautiful line. He says, happiness is one of God's most precious gift. There are many people in the world, especially children, who have been robbed of this joy. Many of our brothers and sisters do not feel the love of God in their daily lives. And so I ask you to become missionaries of joy, even when you do not feel it. How is that possible? When you don't feel it, you'd still be a missionary of joy. And I think that's the hidden mystery we all carry with us. Called the hidden wholeness, in fact. In spite of the brokenness, we have that hidden wholeness of that joy comes to us. As when the Father told about being in a death moment or near death moment, then you can be peaceful, calm in the storm. That also being joyful. So Pope is a great example in his life and also his actions. He calls us to be missionaries of joy. I think to be an authentic person today is about being a missionary of joy. Even if we go through difficulties, still internally we can be peaceful and also be happy, and that is very, very important. Archbishop Flynn, when I was coming into Minnesota, and I met him he was put at a Fairball for a initial experience of the American parish and culture. So I met him, and I still remember what he said. He said, 1,000 welcome. Joyfully, he just looked at me and said, Father Tom, 1,000 welcome. I knew it is going. First I said, what does that mean? 1,000 welcome. It's not an Indian praise. I don't hear it even here. I thought it's an Irish praise maybe, And then he said, 1,000 welcome. I think he meant it. And then I felt that's why reason I still hang around here, So in the sense of that feeling of welcome, a feeling of valued, and also being joyful in your presence. That he's happy to see me as I am. And then that way I think it's very important in our life as leaders. And the second one is inspired in a shared vision. Looking into Pope Francis, many of his actions, it's not only vision, it's also action manifests a vision. Most of us know that when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires, he sold the church mansion and the limousine, and then he took a city bus, ordinary city bus. That is a humbling experience for him, and at the same time inspiring action for others. And today he even tells priests and others to simplify our life, and that becomes inspiration for others. Or another great example where he was in Vatican, and he did not want to stay in the apostolic palace. He wanted to be in a convent because he wanted to be with the people. Want to be isolated. Today we have a tendency to be isolated, but then, need to be connected. And another great inspired action. Or even these examples, you will find you meet a man with without a face, he is giving a face to them. Or he washing a prisoner, not even Catholic, in the prison. Also reaching out and connecting, that inspired millions. I even hear non-Christians tell, oh, you got a great Pope, and his examples are really inspiring, and also is bring people to God in a certain way. Or his own bills he pays, and he need not be, So those are coming from his heart, and even a good joke he will share, and then all those. One day I think he was cracking a joke about a person running towards him. He even said that I was amazed to see he was sitting at the Vatican audience, Wednesday audience. He said, a man ran to me and told me that my mother-in-law is gone to a swamp. And then what shall we do? He said, go and pray for. And then, then finally he said, no, don't pray for the mother-in-law. Pray for the crocodile in the swamp. I thought he even said that at the audience. He can even crack a joke, and then also to make a point. So being natural, being authentic. Sometimes it is hard, but then I think that's the best way to be, and inspiring action. Another important quote I came from Kathy Austin. It says, we make a difference between managers and leaders, So one of the things called managers light a fire under the people, and leaders light a fire in people. What happens as managers, if we light fire under the feet of the people, they will run away. But if we put fire in the heart of the people, they will be inspired, they will stick around. Some days I know we have to take hard decisions. Some days people go away, but make sure the bridge is not broken. That bridge is never broken, it's always there. Some days they may come back after some time. I have even experiences where employees gone away will come back even, and they come back even. Teachers I've seen in the principal for 4 or 5 years, and they even come back after changing their lives. So managers as management, many a time it's not quite a management role, it's a leadership role toward inspiration, and then challenge will help a lot in this way. We are in the mission of developing people. The growth and development of people is the highest calling of a leader. Maxwell is one of the leading authors. So he says that our job, that's quite true in our case, is actually the growth and development of people. When they grow, we grow. I have one teacher, was a computer teacher, and then she had confidence issues. Then we met with her maybe once in 2 weeks, and then regularly guiding her, and then also together with other teachers. And in course of time, it took 2 years, she became the head of the department. You could see the potential in them. They may not see in themselves. As leaders, you can see those things, but help them to develop confidence, capacity, and competence. You will find that we are doing the job right way. Some of the difference between managing and leading, leaders give vision versus managers give goals and objectives. But along with the goals and objectives, you need to provide them with a vision. Quick story about John F. Kennedy when he was visiting NASA. At that time, he saw somebody who sweeps the floor, and he asked him, "What do you do here?" He said, "I'm working to send a man on the moon." Well, how does he get it? But he's part of the big dream, he's part of the big vision. I think if we can convey to people, that's what we are for. Another famous example or a story about one guy is cutting a stone, and then he said, "What do you do?" "I'm just cutting the stone." And the other guy said, "Well, I'm building a cathedral." The vision is there, that makes a difference. Vision is always spiritual. The ambition is always material. Vision is truly spiritual, and ambition can become material. That's why we need to guide and direct people in the best way. So these different styles or differences between those. Some days we have to be managers, some days, many a time we have to be leaders, selling what and why, or motivating people. Longer range vision. Another quick story about the pilot who landed the plane in the Hudson River. His name is Sully, Sullenberg. The journalist went and asked him, "What's your secret? You landed the people safely, even most dangerous situation, without anybody getting hurt. What's your secret?" He said, "I'm a short-term realist and a long-term optimist." Keep the eye on the ground, ear on the ground, but also eye on the horizon. Beautiful way, we all can be, and we should be, I think, that way. Short-term realists, and without forgetting the ground reality, and also long-term optimists or being hopeful. People and human nature, we are for people, and also in a human way, guiding and leading. Democracy versus autocracy, enabling versus restraining, developing versus maintaining, challenging versus conforming, originating new ideas versus imitating, innovating versus administrating, and directing versus controlling. Policy versus procedures, flexibility versus consistency, horizon, bottom line. All these are important. I'm not saying that one is bad or the good, but they are different role played at different time. But the more we can take to the right side, we know it's also saying that you lead from the right and manage from the left. Why? Because you look back and see what went wrong, what could be improved. To the right, you are keeping at the vision and how we are fulfilling the vision. So this both ways we can actually develop ourselves and grow, and you can think and see how we do. Challenge, the next practice is challenging. Some days it's very hard to challenge. But if you know how to challenge, people will. Simple example I would give, like the other day was part of a 50th anniversary celebration for a couple I knew. Actually, they're in Minneapolis, and then they were kind of grumbling and said, "My grandchild is not baptized. They are not first communion. My children are not really coming into the practice of it, but still they are homeschooling and they are also connected with the priest." I said, maybe talk to the priest and ask him to invite them to enter into the sacraments. And then he calls me yesterday and said, "Wow, I was mad at the pastor that he did not respond to my call, but he called the parents and then motivated them, guide them, and their first communion is taken care of. Their baptism first, and then first communion is on the way." Little things, I think we challenge the status quo, and then it will change in our life. To build a long-term mission, meet challenges with the courage and creativity, keep the constancy of purpose. Challenging is also to keep the purpose alive and also see what's going on, and then gently challenge, gently question. Challenge the process to meet the goals, continuously improve. Challenging teams to identify and eliminate problems. Let them take care of. Sometimes staff complain, and sometimes I know they can deal with that. I used to tell them, well, first of all, you try to deal with it. Then secondly, get some help. Still you find difficult, come back to me or come back to the other. The 3-step process, that's always helpful as a due process. Then meet the challenges of a vision may bring, inspire people to win. Next week, some of my staff council, they came with an idea, said, how don't we do a calling night? How many people are gone away from church from time to time? Why don't we do a calling night? And then maybe for 30, 40 people get together, each one bring a cell phone, and then, they can call maybe 20 people in 3 hours. 5 minutes each, something like. That's what they're going to do on November 9th. And then, invite people who are gone away, and also call everybody. You have any questions? Do you have any thoughts for, enhancing our life and ministry? One idea from one person, and then ask other people to take challenge. And it's amazing way, Rome is not built in a day, but we are into that. I think challenge, inspire, and then you will find that people will come along, new things will happen. Enable others to act, which is enabling people. I think delegating and enabling. There is a line, it says, delegate without abdicating responsibility. Delegate. If you delegate to people, because you are responsible finally, but then you delegate to them and share the responsibility to them, and then you can ask some questions later, but then let them do it. Give them freedom. And then if they make mistakes, or if they make good things, enable them. Even through mistakes, they can learn. Foster collaboration by building trust and facilitating relationships. The number one is trust. I remember in Minnesota when I was there, parish was going through a tough time. The school was closed and pastor had to leave overnight because of some situation. And Archbishop asked me to take up the parish maybe after 6 months, and I didn't know much about it. But then the first thing we worked on was building trust between pastor and people. And one of the old priests gave a good advice. He says, don't do any hard-hitting homilies in the first year, because people don't know yet that you love them. Don't do any hard-hitting in the first year. Maybe in the second year a little bit. Sorry. Maybe the third year. Because you love them anyway, but people don't know yet. So it takes time. And that wisdom has come handy to me many a time. I made a lot of mistakes, even in my first year many times. I can testify to that. But learn from those mistakes, and then, enabling others, build a team. Some days team will come. There are 4 things about building a team. It's a nice way. It's that forming, then norming, then storming, and then reforming. Forming, you are forming people together, inviting, forming. Then comes norming, you give the guidelines and directions. This is a way to go about. And then suddenly the storm will come. Nothing works. But that's a learning time, because you're testing the ground. And then reforming. Again, reform. These are tested ideas and practices, First form, then norm, guidelines, then storm will come, disruption will come. But that's a learning time. What's happened, how we can improve together. And I think that should continue as a process. Strengthen others by increasing self-determination and developing competence. I met a bank manager when I was in one parish, and he was going through some struggles. And then I met with him a couple of times, because when I go to bank, I meet him. Then he began to develop rapport and and trust, and then he said, I'm going through a divorce process, and then I said, we'll help you. What is the quiet stories and annulment process. And then I saw that his heart is, I was an altar boy, once upon a time. But then his heart is yearning to come back, I felt. And I said, well, I have an offer for you. What's that? Can you be my business manager? Well, I know you're earning over 100,000. Church cannot offer that. But then tell me what you need. We can work with that. Then he came back and said, I need only 60,000. Because what is important to me is the flexibility. I said, that I can grant you. You get the job done. I don't care when you come to office and when you don't come. You just be helpful, because I knew he will do very well. And he's still sticking around. Even if I moved, and he was for the parish, not for me alone. He continued to move. He helped the parishes through the turbulence. One pastor comes, other comes. He is still the glue. He becomes the glue. So therefore, he felt confident. He got his passion back. And I know you will have many stories, number of you. That way, I think we need to challenge, inspire, and enable people to be who they are. Encourage the heart. That is the fifth practice. I did my review, with John and also Eileen together. We were doing a testing. You'll get that a little later, self-assessment. Then I found that I'm high on challenging the process and inspiring, but I'm low on encouraging the heart. Wow, I thought I'm pretty good with that. But no, so you can always improve on that. Then you take steps. It is said that if you give 3 affirmation, then you are qualified to give 1 challenge. Give 3 affirmation to your employees, your staff, and then don't give 3-0. Then I only give affirmation and I don't never look at what is coming up. No, then you can challenge, you can ask them to improve some areas. The research says that in marriage it should be 5:1. If you're couples, you give 5 affirmation and maybe 1 thing you talk about which you need to improve. Don't try to reform. That is so true. If that is the case, what about us? Maybe we have to be 10:1 as pastors and ministers, and so that's where I'm even learning about it. Probably I've short on some of those things. So I need to enhance and encourage. Many a time we lose sight of what is good happening there. Sometimes what stands out is a problem. And then if we change the perspective, still not losing the other focus, I think it should be 5:1 or 3:1. If you are 1:0 or 2:, maybe balance it. I used to put it like this: sandwich the criticism with the 2 layers of praise. Sandwich the criticism, sandwich the correction with the 2 layers of praise, like you make a sandwich, So those are the beautiful ways we can enable, encourage the heart of the people. And so these are 5 practices. You will see the next session we go into more detail, and where it is 5 practices, then 10 commitments. We went into more details of that, and then 30 behaviors. They're all practically will come into the next session. And this is one of the graphic way of putting it. 5 practices: model, inspire, challenge, enable, encourage. And then those are, we'll send to you, if you're an electronic copy, we'll send you, already have these copies with you in your folder. For students, this beautiful quote I found is that liberate the leader in every student. Every student, every youth you see today, it is needed. Bishop talks about the new moment and the millennials and the nuns. We need to liberate that passion and then potential in them and bring them back into the big community of the church, and that is possible. As I said, sometimes if it is 3 negative and then 1 positive, how does that look like? So this will be kind of nervous behavior, avoiding eye contact, weak tone, facial expression. What are you up to? So in a kind of a criticism mode. The other one, open body language, smiling, showing genuine interest in the other person. What can I do for you? How can I help you? So those are things will be wonderful way we can practice. And better leaders will make better leaders. Leadership is the most important engine of change, the driver of change. If leadership is not working, most of the issues we'll find there. Pope Francis says, he manifests this. Responsibility of a leader is as the ability to do what is right, even when it is hard. And then also live our vocation joyfully. I already said, more better world and aligned our life. And don't be afraid to break with the past. It doesn't mean you're breaking down everything, but slowly challenge the process, and it takes time for changes. The church is much more longer than other places. Build alliances, not walls. An open approach will create alliances and bridges. Seek advice from experts or from others, and be mission-driven. Many of our parishes I see, they are maintenance-driven. Want to maintain, but it should be mission-driven. It takes time to that level. But many of us are maintenance, we want to maintain, but that will go down the hill. But if you are mission-driven, that we have a passion and a mission to go about with the Lord, then we know we can make improvement and grow. It's a summary of put together, model the way, inspire, challenge, enable, and this is a beautiful, you see, for example, I thought it's the best way to show that in servant heart. And then this was very moving picture, which he had actually had, and a person without even a face. Look at that, person. He's giving the face to the one who doesn't have a face. That challenges, but also inspires, and it's the joy comes out. Even the child is marvelous to see that. Even in the church, when children come, I take them and I fly them in the air. They love it. And then one day in a Walgreen, I was there, and the little child running, coming up, mother there, and then she said, "Can you fly me in the air?" The mother said, "No, not in the Walgreens." Till I hold her and I turned her up and then hold her up, and she was beaming. She was so happy. That's what dads do. I think so. Fathers do. They toss their children and give them trust and confidence. So children will jump up to you, and this is skiing out of the way. He challenged the process of embracing a Muslim imam from Egypt, which today we need that. Otherwise we think bad about others, but he showed the world that example. So I think I put it in an acronym called MICEE, M-I-C-E-E. M stands for model, and I for inspire, C for challenge, and E for enable, and E for encourage. Mickey, Mickey Mouse. You can easily remember that. Maybe you are laying down in your sofa and then, okay, what am I good at? In modeling, or by being, an example, or in challenging, or inspiring, or even enabling, or what am I good at? What am I not so? You can keep working on it. And one who learn are great leaders. Kennedy said, those who read are what is it called? He said, those who are readers are leaders. If you are a reader, you will become a leader. It means you need to continue to read and grow. So it's a great examples for us to think and reflect. I hope John, it's not John Marshall, actually Stanford his name. I put the name mistake. He was a military commander. He actually has a great line. He says he's a military leader. He was a superintendent of schools in Seattle, a later course of time. He said, only one secret of success I want to tell you. Even as a military person, he said, Stay in love and lead with love. Stay in love, that's a more powerful force. And then love and lead. I think we cannot go wrong in any way. Even if we go wrong, we can correct it. So that's my inspiration to you and challenge to you. And so thank you so much.